Hey, I'm Joel Wanasek. I'm a pro mixer and the co-founder of NailTheMix.com, the coolest place to learn how to mix heavy music in the entire world. And today I'm going to break down one of my personal favorite death metal songs by one of the most iconic bands of all time. This one's close to me because this was on one of the first CDs I ever got, which is Don't Care by Obituary off the record World Demise. So let's dive in. We're going to deconstruct the mix on this song and talk about it. Let's have a go. You know, what can I say about Obituary other than they have like the sickest pocket out of pretty much any other death metal band, maybe other than like Morbid Angel. They are so sick. So let's start out drum wise and take a look at Donald Tardy's drumming. I mean, Donald Tardy is just such an iconic drummer. And what I love about him is, you know, in metal, all of the biggest, most lasting bands that had the biggest impact seem to have iconic drummers. And the thing about those drummers that makes them iconic is they're just their pocket and their groove, like the way they play, you know, because metal gets technical and everybody's like trying to look how fast I can play. But, you know, there are drummers in metal that just know how to hit the riffs right. And they know how to make you bob your head and want to go punch people. You know what I mean? And that is Donald Tardy. Like every time, Donald Tardy, like 11 out of 10 metal drummer, GOAT. So let's listen to these drums. Real drums in a metal mix. It's so good. All right, so pay attention to the kick, snare, and overhead balances. What do you hear? And it's interesting because to me, they seem kind of balanced. That's kind of a weird statement, but you know, normally in a lot of mixing, you might hear something being favorited, like the kick is really loud, but the snare is kind of tucked and the cymbals are kind of, you know, pulled back. This to me, it's like the cymbals, the kick, the snare, they're very level sounding. Like the kick slightly has an advantage over the snare, but there's times when the snare is really fat. So I love how natural these drums sound. Like these are actual real drums. I'm so not used to hearing drums that aren't just completely samples, but it sounds super, super sick. Okay, so check out the kick drum. There's something cool going on. Listen to the length and the tail of the kick. I don't care. I'll do what I want. So what that kick drum sounds to me is like the engineers got, whoever did this, has the microphone like right up against the inside of the beater to get the most click possible, but there's a lot of tail. Like the kick doesn't really sound heavily muffled, if that makes sense. Like there's not a ton of packing blankets because I can hear the reflections off the shell and the kick. It's got kind of a nice long tail to it in terms of like, you know, maybe they got a mic outside the port or something like that, but there's definitely like a, you know, it's a very natural sounding kick and it's got a nice length to it. It's not like super clicky and short, like it's like, so listen to the length of the kick. Hear that nice thud? You know, it's almost like a nu metal, dare I say, don't beat me up, like a nu metal kind of kick sound where there's like, you know, it's clicky, but it's got a lot of natural length to it and sustain, which again, in metal, everybody likes the typewriter kicks, especially heavy stuff. I think that's cool. All right, snare. Snare is definitely close marked, very fat. Like the EQ is warm, that's what I mean. Not like fat and like low pitched or anything like that, but it's got a very like warm EQ to it. It's not very bright, but what's kind of cool is there's a really neat death metal kind of 90s reverb on it where it sounds to me like if you were to take the room mics or, you know, like a room sample on a snare and run that into a reverb, it gives you a certain sound. But when you take the direct and you run it into a reverb, it's got this very signature characteristic sound. That's what I hear. Listen to the verb tail of the snare. The snare is very dry, but it's smashed into some kind of like, you know, reverb unit. And right there, you can really hear it when he gets like a nice rim shot and you can hear the tail of that. Listen very carefully to that. All right, one more time. One more time. Listen to the reverb. That is the sound of a direct snare smashed into a reverb unit. Okay, so that's awesome. That sounds good. I like the kick, the snare, they're very natural. Now, I got to find a drum fill, and I think there was one back here, but can we just talk about death metal toms for a second? Like, you know, one of the things about Obituary that always stuck out to me as badass is like every time that Donald Tardy just does like a tom roll or something like these, I always had these like massively cannon, super bright, smacky, deep, huge reverberated toms. And it's just like so badass. So let's see if we can find an actual tom fill. Oh, I love that tom sound. It's so sick. So it's got a nice long verb on it. Now, these toms aren't as reverberated as you would hear on something like, Cause of Death, for example, or you know what I mean, or like older Obituary albums. But as a band does more records, the sound progresses and they've got a little bit less reverb, a little bit more direct in their sound and stuff like that. But it's still kind of got that signature sound. I always loved Donald Tardy's toms. He always had like the sickest tom fills. Okay, so cymbal wise, let's pay attention to the overhead. I mean, the cymbals are pretty smooth. This is most likely done to tape, which is gonna, saturate out the top end of those. So you don't have a lot of like really high end top, it's probably mixed on a console, definitely mixed on a console back in 94, right? So his record was probably recorded in like 93. So definitely mixed on a console, most likely tape. It's got that sound, very saturated. Cymbals are very smooth, very organic sounding. The ride cymbal in particular is exceptionally sick. Listen to how the ride cymbal influences the pocket. Yeah, Donald Tardy just knows how to play the right thing at the right time. It's funny because like if I was producing a band, right, and the drummer came in and played some like artsy ass beat like that, I'd be like, all right, now let's put a real beat over this riff. But like when you take that beat and you throw it over this riff, the pocket is just insane. And Obituary just has like the sickest pocket of all metal bands. Like they are just so awesome in terms of like the way they groove. Like, you just want to slam into people. So just listen to like the pocket of how this drum groove takes that riff. And we'll talk about the riff here in a minute, but just listen to just the head bob. It's just so sick. Just amazing groove. I mean, so good. All right. Drumming, phenomenal. Sounds great. Okay, let's talk about the bass playing in this. The bass is a little bit more tucked. Listen to the kick and the bass relationship here in the mix. So I'm hearing the kick drum is below the bass. The bass has kind of got a tight sound. There's no distortion on it. It's just very like 800 to like 1.5K, kind of snarly. You can hear it tucked in their guitars because obviously we'll talk about the guitars. The guitars are insanely scooped because it's death metal. Like that's the sound. And the bass is kind of just pocketed in there. It's a nice solid low end. You can't really hear everything the bassist is doing. It's there. It fills in the mix, but it's not like overbearing or anything like that. It's not just some massive crushing low end. The bass to me is like kind of like a tight ball in the middle of the mix, just holding down. I don't care. All right, let's talk about this guitar tone. Obituary has one of the most signature iconic death metal guitar tones. They always had a sound that like, I don't know, when you hear it, you're just like, yeah, Obituary. You know what I mean? And that's something I love. Like, I feel like a great band, the difference between a great band and an iconic band is like, even if you don't know the songs, right, you could hear a new record by that band, but they have a sound. And that sound is like, Obituary's guitar tone is one of those things. I have no idea what pedal or what amp they used or whatever, or any of the nerdy stuff. I'm sure if I Googled it, I could figure it out. But I gotta say, like, there's a certain distortion pedal they must have used to kind of get that with, some kind of head. It's like very grindy. It's kind of like harsh, but if you were to like smooth it out, like a lot of people do in newer mixes, like this would lose all of its balls and energy. Like it would lose the pocket, it would lose the aggression. So listen to the frequencies of the guitar tone. Like it rips your fucking face off. Like as a mixer, there's so many frequencies I just want to start cutting. But like I said, if you were to cut that out, it loses its character. So that like the 3 to 5K in there, I would say like 2 to 5K, like there's a huge spike somewhere around 3K that's just like, it's just, it's very aggressive and abrasive. And I mean, this is death metal, right? It just grinds you and I love it. There's absolutely no mids in the guitar tone. Just upper, mid, lower treble, just bite. It's got a lot of bite. It's got some low end chug in it. And like everything, there's like just 500 through 800 just demolished, just gone. And it's awesome. Again, that's where the bass is sitting. So it's sick and it works really great with the drum tone. Damn, this song slams. I don't know why this isn't a more popular Obituary song, but this is my favorite Obituary song of all time. There, hold on. I hear some good toms. Listen to that. Oh, I love that reverb on them. They're so sick. Not a lot of bottom end, but a lot of bite, a lot of body. Okay, so This mix is very guitar forward. Listen to the guitar balance in terms of the bass. I love how loud that is. All right, let's talk about John Tardy. I mean, if there's a death metal vocalist that is just like one of the best of the best of the best, gotta be John Tardy. The reason I say that is like, when I was younger, I always thought Obituary's vocals were kind of like weird sounding, you know what I mean? And like the way he enunciated, like, you know, as I've gotten older, I've appreciated how freaking good and brilliant John Tardy is as a vocalist. Like, talk about a signature iconic style. Like, you know, when I think of like lows and stuff like that, I can think of a million vocalists in metal and they all kind of sound the same, but there's only one John Tardy. You know what I'm saying? There's only one. And for a vocalist to come up with a style that there is only one, where anybody else who copied that would be like, oh yeah, you sound like John Tardy. You know what I mean? Like, that to me is what makes an icon. All right. So one thing that is incredible, you know, like I said, the pocket of this band is insane, but listen to John Tardy's vocal flow and how it plays the pocket and makes the whole band groove 50% harder. Like, if you took the vocals out of this, it would be sick, but just listen very carefully to the timing and the placement of the rhythm of the vocal. I don't care what they say. I don't care. So if you're an astute listener, you'll notice that almost all of his vocal timing is elongated and on the back of the beat. If it was like, I don't care, you know what I mean? It's like, it's like a slow glide into every vocal that kind of just hits the pocket perfectly on the back of the beat. So listen to the timing when that cadence of hits, you know, it's insane, the flow that it adds. Sometimes people say death metal vocalists sound like a bear, you know, but John Tardy to me sounds like lion in a savanna just destroying all that oppose it with its might. You know what I mean? Like, he's like the lion of death metal. I mean, good God, so freaking sick. So I love the flow. I love just like the delay of the flow, right? And how it just plays the back of the beat. The whole pocket. You take that with the drumming groove, the riff, you know, it just, you know, you can't not listen to this and want to get in a pit and start hurting people. You just can't. I don't care what they say. This might have like the best groove in all of death metal. This might be the sickest groove I've ever heard in my entire life in a death metal song. All right, let's go pop this guitar. Oh, I should talk about how these vocals are mixed. I'm sorry. How could I forget? I was so enthralled by how sick this song is, I just couldn't contain my excitement for it. Okay, so listen to the voice. Vocals are not louder than the guitars. Very nice long throw reverb on the voice. You know, it's not like cavernous, but it's definitely got some length to it. Listen to that. Nice delay effect. And what's amazing is that's just a mono vocal. It's not doubled. You know what I mean? It's like, and when it does get doubled, it's usually for like an effect or an accent. But John Tardy just has that much power in his voice. He just is so sick. So, you know, vocals are not bright. They're nice. They're warm. They, you know, that upper edge, they're kind of pocketed around the guitars. You know, they fit perfectly in the spectrum. You can just hear the diaphragm power. I mean, that is a dude screaming his ass off in the booth into a mic, just crushing the mic diaphragm like a boss. One of the best vocalists ever. Okay, so super epic reverb. Very long delay time. Unbelievably great. I love this song. I love this mix, you know, for like 1994. It still sounds badass today. You know, what's always amazing about, like I said, these records is they have a sound to them, where so many bands now just kind of all sound the same. It's like we're using the same amp sims, the same drum samples, the same this, the same that. The only thing difference is the singer's voice. They all sound the same. Back in the day, people took the time to create something unique and every possible way, from the vocal style to the guitar tone to the, you know, the types of riffs they were writing. I gotta be honest, I kind of miss that. So let me know what you think of this song and this mix in the comments below. Of course, if you've got any more songs you want me to take a look at, of course, I'll be happy to break them down. If you like mixing content and stuff like that, you can follow me on TikTok and Instagram. It's at Joel Wanasek. And of course, if you want to learn how to mix heavy music, you can check out nailthemix.com. If you enjoy this content, please click like and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. We definitely could do some more death metal.